What is going on, football fans? Back at it with another New York Giants video. In this video, we're going to dive into the new quarterbacks coach for the New York Giants as Brian Daboll continues to fill out his staff as they bring in Shea Tierney. We'll dive further into detail about him. Also, word has come out that the New York Giants will be adding their offensive coordinator by the end of the week. And right now, from what I've read by several sources, that it is down to 3 candidates. Soon we're going to start to dive into draft prospects as well. I did hear today about the Senior Bowl. I'm sure a lot of you guys out there are excited. I know Malik Willis is a very popular name, and I will be diving into the quarterbacks in this year's draft class, reportedly by several people, had a very strong day at the Senior Bowl. So we'll see if that increases its draft stock and whether or not the New York Giants do show some interest. What I read, I think the Saints interviewed him, and there may have been another team or two, but that's not what this video is about. This video is about diving into the new quarterbacks coach, and this is another instance of Daboll bringing in a guy that he's familiar with. Daboll, of course, brought in a new offensive line coach that came from Buffalo. The same thing can be said for Tierney, now who will be the quarterbacks coach for the New York Giants. And Josh Allen had nothing but incredible things to say about him. Also, before I dive into this, another little thing that I wanted to mention, word has come out that Daniel Jones is going to be reaching out to Josh Allen to try to get some tips of how to orchestrate the offense from within this Buffalo Bills scheme. So I thought that was interesting as well. I don't know much will come from it, but I just thought it was pretty cool that Daniel Jones said he's going to reach out to Josh Allen. This is the resume with Shea Tierney, the assistant quarterbacks coach. We'll briefly go over it. He's been with the Buffalo Bills since 2018. Tierney joined the Bills in 2018 as an offensive assistant and was promoted to assistant quarterbacks coach in 2020. He spent time 3 seasons with the Philadelphia Eagles as an analyst, coaching intern before joining the Alabama Crimson Tide as an offensive analyst. Tierney was a member of the Bills in 2020 coaching staff that helped lead the team to its first division title since 1996. His highlights with the Bills helped guide Josh Allen to finish second in MVP voting and set single-season franchise record in yards, touchdowns, yada, 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 in his 3rd season. He also assisted in leading a Bills offense that led the AFC in points per game in 2020 with 31.3 points per game. Like we talked about, also was with Alabama, the Eagles, and NC State before that. Here's his full resume if you want to check that out. But now we're going to dive into a couple more things. First, let's look at what Josh Allen had to say about his former assistant quarterback coach. Here's what Bills quarterback Josh Allen had to say about Tierney last August. He's been here since day one, Allen continued. He's basically Daboll's right-hand man, which would explain why Brian Daboll wanted to bring him over here to be the new quarterbacks coach for the New York Giants. He makes all the cut-ups. He makes all the install pages. He runs the scout defense. Just the energy and juice that he brings too. He's just one of those guys, and he loves football. That's what I love about him. When he's in our meeting rooms, it's awesome because of the things that he sees. He's been around a lot of really good coaches in the past, and he's been able to kind of take some things from those guys and apply it to what he's doing now. He's still very young, but I think he's got a long, long future in the NFL business. So that was Josh Allen talking about his former assistant quarterback coach. This coming out from Duggan, just announcing the hiring. The Giants are hiring Shea Tierney as the quarterback coach per source. Tierney had been the Bills' assistant quarterback coach under Brian Daboll. Then Ian Rappaport retweeted that and added this: Shea Tierney will be key in implementing Brian Daboll's schemes, an important hire for Daboll. So it looks like the New York Giants are really going to have a fresh, new look offense next year. Of course, that'll be headed by Daboll, the offensive coordinator that we don't know yet who it's going to be. And of course, Shea Tierney will have something to do with that. This is just kind of summing up everything I just said, so I'm not even going to read that. But that was off the Buffalo Bills website. Now we're going to jump into the potential offensive coordinators for the New York Giants. And apparently there's 3. They're down to 3 names. I briefly talked about O'Shea yesterday. O'Shea, the reason I brought him up was because Jordan Renan brought him up as the first. That was the first name I heard. And then 2 other names came out, and now it's been reported by several people. These are the 3 finalists: Chad O'Shea, Mike Kafka, and my personal favorite, Pep Hamilton. Now, it's all based off of opinion. I think Pep Hamilton would be a great hire by the New York Giants, especially when I did more research on him. He's been a name I've heard about for years throughout the NFL, was the offensive coordinator for the Indianapolis Colts. We'll go over his complete resume, but he's worked with quarterbacks like Andrew Luck, both at the collegiate and pro level. He's worked now more recently with Justin Herbert, and just last year got a lot out of Davis Mills, who of course was 67th overall by the Houston Texans. Nobody thought he would do much going into his rookie season with the support that he had there in Houston, yet had a pretty damn good rookie season, along with, of course, Justin Herbert the year before when he was coaching him. But first, let's jump into the story by Tom Rock. Also in this story, updates on coaching staff from sources, including the Giants plan to name the OC by the end of the week, that they never planned on bringing in Dorsey with them from Buffalo. That's interesting. That's a fact I found interesting. Whether or not it's true, who knows? Maybe the New York Giants are saying that now due to the fact that Dorsey never came here to begin with, but apparently, at least according to Rock sources, the Giants were never going to hire Dorsey. Jerome Henderson figures to stay as the DB's coach under Patrick Graham. And we don't know yet if Patrick Graham's going to be back. He's still in the running for the Minnesota Vikings job. We'll see how that plays out. Henderson's been the DB coach here for the New York Giants each of the last 2 years, and it looks like he'll remain on with the coaching staff next year. This is the resume for Pep. Started at Howard as a quarterback's coach. I also believe, from what I read in the articles, I think he's a former collegiate quarterback. Was an offensive coordinator for Howard for 2 years, then went to the Jets as an offensive quality control coach, then became the QB coach while Chad Pennington was the quarterback, then the wide receivers coach, went to San Fran as a QB coach, then the Bears as a QB coach, back to college with Stanford as a wide receivers coach, then became the offensive coordinator and quarterbacks coach for 2 years while he was with Andrew Luck. He did such a good job with Andrew Luck, and Andrew Luck liked him so much that he followed Andrew Luck to the pros. He then became the offensive coordinator for the Indianapolis Colts each of the first 3 years with Andrew Luck as his quarterback with the Colts, then went to the Browns as an assistant head coach and QB coach, then back to college at Michigan. Then he found himself back in the NFL with the Chargers in 2020 with Justin Herbert as his quarterback before getting the job with Houston this past year as the passing game coordinator and the quarterback's coach. And I don't think anybody would argue that it seems that he did a very good job with both Herbert and Davis Mills this past year. This then coming out. Hamilton has worked with quarterbacks as a position coach or coordinator on the pro or college level for 21 out of his 25 years in football. Further detail on it. It wasn't by accident, and it wasn't surprising. Hamilton is a genius when it comes to developing quarterbacks, having coached up a list of starters prior to becoming Herbert's NFL transition as smooth as the Michael Jackson moonwalk. And whether it's Daniel Jones or whether it's another quarterback that we draft next year or this year, you're going to want a guy here that can get the most out of the quarterback. And the more good offensive minds that you bring in to these set positions, the better he'll be off. So it makes me believe that Hamilton could potentially be a really good candidate for the New York Giants. We'll have to wait and see how it all plays out. Hamilton reportedly got offered the offensive coordinator job with the Panthers, and he didn't even show up for the interview. I do believe he showed up for an interview with the Bears, and to my knowledge, he's still due to show up to an interview for the New York Giants for their open job. This then coming out about Kafka. Kafka, of course, a former quarterback. I think his only game he ever played in the NFL was with the Eagles against the New York Giants, in which he threw 2 interceptions. But here's his resume as a coach. Played at at Northwestern as a graduate assistant for 1 year, then got the job with the Kansas City Chiefs as an offensive quality control coach before becoming a quarterback's coach from 2018 to 2019, then a quarterback's coach and passing game coordinator for each of the last 2 years. And he, of course, is credited, much like the guy we just talked about, for being a guy that helped mold Pat Mahomes, being a really good quarterback coach, a former quarterback in his own right. Let's jump into some of the things that Andy Reid had to say and a number of other people. He had a big imprint on what I did, developing me to be the player that I am, Mahomes said of Kafka, and he continues that. He stays on me. He preaches the fundamentals. For somebody like me who likes to get away from that sometimes, it's good to have that person in your ear. That's just telling you to take what's there. Keep your feet in the right spot. Make the throw the right way, because that's stuff that I need. It's stuff that he makes me better with every single day. So it sounds like a guy that makes his players, pay attention to detail. 11 men who have served under the 62-year-old Andy Reid have been hired as NFL head coaches, NFL head coaches, in part because he works to develop assistants in the way he does players. Reid hires individuals he believes in and trusts, such as a quarterback he drafted to the Eagles in 2010. Of course, Reid was the coach when Kafka was a quarterback with the Eagles, who found himself looking for a break in coaching. That was Kafka. He joined the Chiefs in 2017 after serving 1 year as a graduate assistant at Northwestern. It's unbelievable that he was able to take a chance on me, Kafka said of Reid. Andy Reid, I know his future is very bright. And then that's it. That's basically it. I will do a further detail into these guys if, in fact, they get the job. But it sounds like the New York Giants are looking for a guy, as they should, to get the most out of their quarterback. They hired the former assistant quarterback coach from the Buffalo Bills, and these two offensive coordinators specifically, even Chad O'Shea as well, to a certain extent, seem like they're quarterback-driven guys, and that's what I think the Giants need at this point in time. You have a young quarterback with Daniel Jones. Whether or not you want him to be the answer this year, we'll see. We've seen what they've said about him. It seems like they want to push forward with him going into year 4, but even if not, that is not the case, you will have another young quarterback that's coming in that they will have to mold. So I think either one of these individuals would be a good hire. I'm leaning with Hamilton due to the fact that he has a longer resume. He's been in the league for a longer period of time. He's a former offensive coordinator. I even remember back in like 2014, 2015, there were talks that he was going to be one of the hottest names that could potentially get a head coaching gig. I'm not too sure how that played out. Obviously, he didn't get it because he's been a coordinator his entire career, but he's a guy that I would have a lot of interest in if he did want to take this job to work with Daniel Jones and the New York Giants. We'll have to wait and see how it all plays out, but just want to get a video up on the new quarterbacks coach and the overall search for the new offensive coordinator for the New York Giants football team. I'll probably have a video out tomorrow talking about the Senior Bowl if more stuff comes out based off maybe some guys that the New York Giants interview. Maybe we get some hints in that capacity. Maybe I'll talk about some of the things that have come out about the quarterbacks and some of the hot prospects from within the game. But we'll have to wait and see how it all plays out. As always, if you liked what you watched, please subscribe, drop a comment, maybe give me a little thumbs up. Cheers.